Unit 9, Lesson 1. Reflecting on the opening stage and introducing self-study, which is step 9 in the PBL process. This lesson will look at an overview of self-study and the reflection, the importance of self-study, identifying your information need. Just to give you an overview of what's required. Why would you reflect on self-study and on the opening stage? It's important to reflect to ensure that you have the relevant information to conduct self-study and to allow you to plan the period of self-study. How you might do this is by asking questions. You might examine if you've acquired sufficient information to help you to understand the problem and potential solutions. Are you clear about what the problem entails and what solutions the group are aiming for? If you're not sure if you have sufficient information, you might need to identify if you need to ask any additional questions of the group in order to allow you to achieve your learning objectives. You might examine what approaches should you use to achieve your learning objectives. So for example, if you need to look at customer approaches to forecasting, you might need to speak to your customers or interview your customers. You might need to examine if these are effective. What's the best way of doing this? Is it going out to visit the customers or calling them up and telephoning them and asking them? And what problems might arise and how can you deal with them? So if you're going to telephone your customers to ask them how they forecast, you might need to have the contact person in the company that deals with that particular task, and you might need to ask someone else in your organisation to provide you with those details. You might also need to look, is there anything that may impact your ability to achieve these learning outcomes? So again, if you're looking at your customers' forecasting approaches, some customers might be reluctant to share this information. If so, do you have a backup plan about how to achieve this? So are there other customers you might speak to, or is there someone else in the organisation that might be able to speak to the customer, as maybe a sales rep or something, to give them an indication of why you're speaking to them in this manner and encourage them to speak to you? Does the learning objectives impact on the tasks or work assigned to other PBL learners or perhaps other areas of the organisation? So if your learning objective is to develop a new approach to forecasting in your organisation, what other areas does this impact? It will impact purchasing, inventory management and warehousing. So it's important you speak to the other people about this and how to develop a more holistic solution. So what does self-study entail? So in self-study, the learner collects and applies knowledge to a relevant learning objective. And the view of this is to solve the overall problem that was identified in the opening stages of the PBL process. To do this, you're going to be required to collect and evaluate and apply material to a practical solution. So the approach that we will use is information literacy. This is concerned with the ability to locate, understand and use information. This skill is a necessary competence in the workplace today, and a number of researchers have highlighted the importance of information literacy. So according to the American Literacy Association, information literacy is identified as the ability to recognise when information is needed and have the ability to locate, evaluate and effectively use the needed information. As mentioned before, information literacy is a key skill in the workplace, and the below video gives you some information about the importance of this. You can click the link in the text to view this video. So to help you to conduct the self-study stage, we'll look at the following steps. So these have been adapted from Goad and Doyle, which are two information literacy researchers. So Goad used a 16-stage approach, whereas Doyle uses 10 steps. So we've kind of tried to identify the common steps to both and which might be appropriate for a PBL situation. So the main steps are identifying the information need, which we will do in this lesson. identifying the information sources and search strategies, which we will do in lesson 2, gathering the information, which we will do in other lesson 3 and 4, and evaluating and applying the information, again, which we will do in lesson 3 and 4. So the rest of these lessons will be loosely based around these common steps. The first step, which involves identifying the information need, will be done in this step. So the information the learner needs depends on the learning objectives outlined in step 5. So for example, for a cash flow problem, the learning objective might be to examine best practices in forecasting. So to enable you to do this, the information you might need would maybe, what are the most common approaches to forecasting? What are the challenges in forecasting? What are the success factors in developing a good forecast? And what other forecasting approaches do other companies use, and how effective do they find them? So if you want to identify best practice, you need to know what's the common approaches, what issues people face, what guidelines do people follow to ensure they're successful, and maybe look at what other companies use and if they're effective or not.